Highly regarded as the best situational comedy in history, specifically from a Vanity Fair variety poll in 2012, Seinfeld continues to hold an astonishing grasp on the comedy genre. Parrot Analytics in 2021 provides that Seinfeld is in the 99.7th percentile, with its home market travelability rate at 100%. Despite these astonishing reviews, there are plenty of negative ones, specifically a 10 over 10 and 1 over 10 one on the entertainment platform IMDb. Let us examine. The first one comes from the user Dreadnum, stating that Seinfeld is the funniest TV show in history. Set around the everyday life of a New York comedian, it managed to spearhead every sacred cow in its sight. Sex, drugs, religion, politics, political correctness, old age, race, relationships, homosexuality, Los Angeles, you name it, they spearheaded it. And the best part about it was that you could see a little bit of yourself in each of these four zany characters and always understand the messes they got themselves into. Just brilliant. Now, opposing this reveling review comes from user Jim S_8686, providing that, for me, Seinfeld just does not hold up. And the overall lack of political commentary couldn't even make up for the lack of content as a whole. The character of Seinfeld is whiny, wimpy, grating, and just not funny. These two reviews provided polarity and appreciation for types of humor. Although Seinfeld is so highly regarded, it is not for everyone. So today, we can ask the research question, what are the implications of violent and benign humor on viewership in the media? To answer, we'll examine Caleb Warren and A. Peter McGraw's article, Opinion, What Makes Things Humorous?, published July 15, 2015, in volume 112 in the Academy of Sciences in the United States of America, showing the different types of humor, applying the Seinfeld reviews before finally drawing implications on how these types of humor can affect society. First, let us examine the model. Although seemingly simple in its nature, humor is a multi-layered paradigm that has been studied time and time again over the years. Warren and McGraw's article is brief, distinguishing the differences of humor. They provide three types of aspects: humor's playful perspective, humor's negative underpinnings, and humor's conflicting and ambiguous interpretations within the media. First off, let us examine tenet 1, humor's playful perspective. They provide that a playful perspective occurs when a situation that is tense applies humor to it. They go on to specify that psychiatrists find that anxiety-provoking, frightening, or otherwise tense situations can be made more lighthearted with the addition of humor. Their prime example was when they instructed patients to draw blood from rats that they found out the rats were fake. Although the situation is not playful at first, it is done so with the addition of humor. Next, we go on to tenet 2, humor's negative underpinnings. Although it is imperative to add humor to a tense situation for tenet number 1, for tenet 2, that is not the case. In fact, you should not add humor to a tense situation otherwise known as a violent occurrence. Their prime example is the rough and tumble play, which, actually, the victim has the most fun out of. Typically, from a bystander perspective, this is seen as too violent or outlandish. This is typically known as dark humor. Finally, tenet 3, humor's conflicting and ambiguous interpretations within the media, see these two tenets coming together. Two sides of humor on opposite ends of the spectrum come to please some while offending others. In fact, Warren and McGraw provide a Venn diagram for this phenomenon: violation, benign, and humor itself right in the middle. Their suggestion is that humor is a simultaneous perception that is perceived differently by all. Their prime example is flagellation at the dinner table, which horrifies a mother, but humors a young boy. Whether or not you chuckled on the inside personifies the idea that humor is perceived differently by all. Now that we have a better understanding of the framework, let us apply it to these Seinfeld reviews. Dreadnum states later in his review that Seinfeld probably added more language to the English dictionary than any other television show in history. The characters in Seinfeld were zany, ridiculous, overcharacterized, and ultimately hilarious. Dreadnum provides that because Seinfeld was so revolutionary in its writing, casting, and execution, that it remains so beloved in this day and age. In fact, these characters are constantly seen making the worst decisions imaginable, such as drugging a woman with wine and turkey to play with her childhood toys. However, because of the fact it is backed up by gut-wrenching humor, this is playful. Therefore, tenet 1 of the playful perspective is affirmed. Moving on to the opposite review comes from Jim S_8686, providing that For me, the funniest moment of Seinfeld is probably on David Letterman, with Michael Richards apologizing for his racist rant that was videoed on phone cam and released to the internet. For Jim here, the funniest moment of Seinfeld occurred when Cramer's actor was blacklisted from Hollywood and an entire situation ensued from it. Although everyone else sees this as a violent occurrence, Jim sees this as a positive aspect. In fact, even though he doesn't see any of the characters as unique or humorous, the second one of the cast members steps out of line, it's comedy gold. Therefore, Tenet 2 of violent humor is affirmed. Finally, Tenet 3 is a prime example of the first two coming together. Seinfeld has gained viewers over the years as well as losing them, depending on how people reacted. We see both sides of the perception, with some being offended and others humored, meaning we can prove that this is a simultaneous perception. Therefore, Tenet 3 is affirmed. Now that we've applied the framework, let us examine some of the implications. What are the implications of violent and benign humor on viewership in the media? To answer, we can prove that implications are positive as a whole. However, that does not mean there cannot be negative connotations. The first implication we can examine is through humor in this day and age, aka cancel culture. Whether it's through a joke made distastefully ultimately forgotten 3 days later, all the way to Michael Richards' racist rant which offended pretty much everyone, humor is seen as a slippery slope nowadays. There are ratings put into place to ensure the safety of viewers. However, that is not a surefire way to prove that no one will be offended. South Park is a prime example of this phenomenon. In fact, one can become so offended that they attempt to get a program taken off of air. Again, South Park is a prime example. However, we can view the other implication, how humor connects communities. Yes, there are variations of humor that are seen to offend certain people. However, humor itself is seen to bond one another. In fact, dark humor is scientifically proven to help those in the coping mechanisms that suffer from trauma. In fact, Mary Blake on verywellmind.org in a 2021 article provides that it can help your physical health as well, with your vascular and cardiac system improving. So not only can humor help your physical health, but mental health as well. Today, we have analyzed Warren and McGraw's article, Opinion, What Makes Things Humorous, applied it to the Seinfeld reviews before finally drawing implications on how these types of humor can affect society. Overall, we can acknowledge that these range from positive to negative depending on how people react, humorously or humorlessly. Ultimately, we have to understand that we have the power to broadcast the horizons of other people who do not share our interest in humor, and we have to accept the same from others. All in all, we take it or we leave it. In fact, I actually believe it was George Costanza that might propose that we should celebrate our differences, and that we should explore the different types of humors that come from one another and accept them as a whole, and that there always can be a Festivus for the rest of us.